Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dangerous Rhetoric. We're in a very special location. We have a very special guest today. We wanted to jump right into talking with Mr. Chris Elston about his experience being assaulted during the Trans Day of Vengeance, or Visibility, depending on your perspective, and get into some of the issues that have been going on this week, because a lot has happened this week, and I feel like we need to clear the air. We need to talk about it.
Before we jump into it, please like, comment, share, subscribe. As you can see, we're in a special location right now, so shout out to Kevin Hurley of the Disinfected Podcast for hosting us here today. This is probably the most professional looking Dangerous Rhetoric episode yet.
Yes, concomitant with all the technical fun. So Chris, we saw that viral footage, and maybe I'll splice it in a little bit so people can see it. But we saw you go down there in Vancouver and come out with your billboards as usual, and it looked like you were swarmed by a rabid pack of crazy people. Can you tell us a little bit about what was going through your head? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the footage. I might splice it in and play it over it, and just give us, a little, how does it make you feel, and how did it come from your perspective?
How does it make you feel?
Just another day in the office, really. This is the 25th time I've been assaulted or something like that. So
wow.
They haven't all been like that. When I say assaults, I'm including people spitting on me, because those are technically assaults. Actual physical altercations, getting punched and things. I don't know. At least a dozen. I'm probably forgetting some things. But that was probably the second biggest assault. The worst one would be when I had my arm broken.
Yeah. But
that was back in March of 2021, and not really many people knew what I had already been doing for 6 months. And I didn't have a lot of support or anything, so no one reported on it. This is totally different this time. I've gained, I don't know what I've gained now, 80,000 followers already. I'm going to cross 200,000. It took me 2.5 years to get to 100,000. And I'm going to cross 200,000 either today or tomorrow. And I'm going on Tucker Carlson tomorrow night. So hopefully that adds another 50 or something. But I knew these days would come. Fortunately, in the last week, Twitter took the shackles off my account. I'd been getting censored for over a year, where you had to be 18 to follow me. You had to adjust your settings to allow sensitive content. So a lot of people wouldn't have even been able to see these videos if Twitter hadn't taken the censorship away. So that's one reason these have taken off so much. But I'm just totally shocked by the behavior of the police. And I'm not really shocked, because I've seen this before. I've been arrested twice by that same police force after getting assaulted. But that was, I think, a new low. The woman's laughing, smiling away. Right from the very get-go, she didn't care. She said maybe I cut my own nose during the first assault, which no police were there for. I have it all on video from multiple angles. But she's saying maybe I cut my own nose. People do that sort of thing, So right away I knew I had a problematic police officer on my hands. And they all were totally useless. So it ended up, they kept coming. We ended up with about 40 of them there at the time of the second, more major assault. And they did nothing. I wasn't allowed to walk on the field to talk to the police officers even, because people would get in my way. Then this independent journalist named Dan Dix wanted to give me an interview, but they followed me and swarmed all around me. So we walked 10 feet away, they followed again. We walked 10 feet away, they followed again. And then they started getting right in front of me and screaming right in my ear. And what am I supposed to do in that situation? I can't move. Police will do nothing about it. I literally can't get out of that situation unless I touch somebody. And he's right in my face, moving into the front of me, leaning right into me. So I did what any normal human being would do, which was rather gently put a hand on his chest to start to move him out of the way, because I wanted to get out of there. But apparently that's the go button for throat punching someone and trying to throw them to the ground, which, I took a pretty big fall. He pulled on me, and this other guy behind me pushed me, and I was on a hill as well. So took a bunch of steps, and then I fell pretty hard on my tailbone. It was not the cleanest of falls, but it is what it is.
I mean, it's pretty amazing considering you had your billboard strapped on, you're surrounded by these crazy people, you're being shouted at, pushed and shoved. I think there's a really interesting still where that guy has his hand around your throat, and his face is just, you know, it's demonic. It's like, he's got like a scowl, and you're just kind of like, you're stoic. You're just like...
Yeah, I wanted to comment on Mr. Brian Krausenstein's
Yes, we can have a special shout out
to all of this.
Mr. Krausenstein.
Because
do we want to give him any attention? I mean, that guy.
I'll give him a little attention.
Because we can bring him up because this is the narrative that they're going to go with.
They're trying to
this is the
spin.
lie that they're going to push.
Well, I'm bringing it up because, you know, Chris
They can do whatever they want. It doesn't mean anything.
Chris mentioned you put your hand up, right, toward this person, and I looked at the footage many times, and you were turning around and recording what was happening around you, and then as you turned around, this person was even closer to you.
It's like literally like up in your grill.
Yeah, and you simply
Screaming.
put your hand up, you know, and that's what any rational person would do, like back up.
Yeah.
And this low testosterone bastard here says that Chris shoved her first as seen in the slow motion video.
Her.
Yes, her.
He's such that guy's such a liar. It's just everything Brian Krausenstein says is wrong. This is the guy that used to tweet within seconds of every single Donald Trump tweet. And it wouldn't matter what Donald Trump tweeted, he was always the opposite. Donald Trump could say the sky was blue and he would argue it. And I've been in some Twitter spaces with him. I don't know why Mario Knopfel ever lets this guy in a space. He's a total joke. He even lets him into some of these gender spaces I've been in. He knows nothing about any of this, but they bring him in for some reason. This is a guy that used to host websites where people would post their Ponzi schemes to collect money from people. The Krausenstein brothers, enriched themselves with Ponzi schemes. Their houses were raided by the feds, and they had hundreds of thousands of dollars of seized. This guy is a totally dishonest individual. He's a complete and utter joke, but he represents the Democratic Party very well, so at least he does that.
Yeah, he called you a liar and an instigator, and he knows from personal
experience. I love the personal experience.
Yeah, right. Well, we also have personal experience with you, Chris, and I can testify to people you're definitely not a liar and an instigator. And apparently he posted another thing because you blocked him.
Yeah, of course I blocked him. I'm not giving him a platform in my replies. Forget about it.
Right. No,
he said you rely on hate and marginalization of transgender people to get donations, which is crazy to me because it's like, from what I understand,
did he promote my donate button? Thanks.
I wish he would have. Maybe we should throw the link on that.
He essentially did by saying that. So now people know that I accept donations. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons you accept donations is you also put a lot of your own money into these excursions that you go on, and this is something that I think people don't really totally understand. It costs money to do these things. So yes, of course you're going to ask for donations from people who want to see you keep doing this. It's not grifting, and it's not instigating going around.
He's raking in six figures from the Democratic Party, please.
But trying to spin the narrative that someone who's going
Confession by projection.
Someone who's going around simply trying to have conversations with people. There is no instigation. It's, yes, you wear a billboard, but if you're arguing that the words on a billboard are instigation toward violence, then it's pretty clear which side here are the more
delusional thoughts from Fantasy Island.
Yeah. Yes,
insane.
it's delusional.
Chris, I wanted to ask you, we just had this major shooting in Nashville, the first time a transgender mass shooter. It seems like an escalation in their willingness to use violence. And the other thing that really struck me about this particular shooting was that the media response had been almost conciliatory towards the shooter. Yeah. They're saying that there were 7 victims because they're counting the shooter as a victim. Do you think this is an escalation? Because I know you've been on the ground, you've seen this firsthand. Or is this really just more of the same thing and that we're all just seeing it more now because there's attention on it?
We're seeing it more because people are fighting back. This is the same as it's been. Going back to October 2020, I was arrested after getting assaulted. I was assaulted again in December, arrested then as well, after getting sucker punched from behind and stopping a guy from running away. I was arrested. These people have always been totally insane. The whole time I've been doing this, especially in Canada, there's always been violent acts happening every so often. I try to go places 99% of the time where I'm totally safe. Once in a while, I attract attention. I went to Ottawa and I went to have conversations on this street where these schools were with parents about what was going on there. And 200 university students came to me and mobbed me and painted on me and spat on me and punched me twice and destroyed my signs and keyed my car, all in the presence of police and political officials, city councillors from Ottawa. I think there was an MP there as well, a member of parliament, just cheering it all on. So finally, people are fighting back against this. No one was really talking about this a year or two ago, definitely not 2 years ago. And people are starting to go outside into the real world, which is where you have to do this. This has to be done out in the real world, because that is what reaches the broad populace. You can't just do this in your echo chamber on Twitter or Facebook. You've got to get outside. That's how every civil rights movement has ever seen success, people acting in the real world. And the same applies today. You're not going to change laws by tweeting about it.
That's true.
It's a really good point.
Yeah, and there are more and more people doing that. Look at what happened to Posey Parker recently, which is another thing we can talk about. And all of this sort of happened within the same week period. You know, the mass shooting, the attack on you, and then the abhorrent attack on Posey Parker.
Yeah.
And it's just I think you're correct. I think it's because more people are fighting back now. We're seeing an even worse rabid response from these people. But like you said, they were always sort of like this. This is not a new thing. But we're seeing a heightened response.
Let me qualify my last statement a little bit. So because we're winning so spectacularly, there's 20 states passing legislation or in the process of pushing through legislation to stop this. The narrative being pushed by the left, by the Democrats, by the media, is that there's a genocide of trans people. Now, these guys have always talked like this, but now that they're losing so much and they're freaking out, the media keeps pumping this narrative. And you're dealing with a lot of mentally ill young individuals. And when you work them into a frenzy, as the media and the Democrats are trying to do, yes, some people are going to lash out. So who knows the motive of that shooter in Nashville? Obviously, she went to a Christian school and attacked there. Apparently, there were other targets. When someone does this, they're, of course, seriously disturbed. And people never do anything like this for one reason. This is always a variety of factors that have led them to this. Who knows what drugs she was on? And who knows if she was on testosterone, what that was doing to her. But when you do give testosterone to these anxious, depressed girls who are struggling with whatever mental problems, well, what does testosterone do? It creates impulsivity and rage and anger, and it causes men to do a whole bunch of dumb things. Well, now give this to a woman who is not supposed to have this in her body, is not used to it at all, and they're already in a fragile mental state. This is a recipe for disaster all around. It's a recipe for disaster for themselves in terms of suicidality, because women are actually suicidal more, girls are more suicidal than boys, but boys follow through more often. Now you give these girls testosterone. What do you think is going to happen? It's just a total recipe for disaster. This whole thing has to end.
Yeah, and then on top of that, add in the impact that, this person clearly probably had one of the cluster B personality disorders. That's the, I think that's the big thing. People are going to want to blame testosterone and, SSRIs or whatever, other meds that she may or may not have been on. But at the end of the day, she was clearly disturbed. She clearly was antisocial enough that she was willing to take a weapon out and use it on children. It's just so insane, and the fact that these people and this pattern of these cluster B personality disorders, just being able to have that excused, because she's trans or because she was angry or this, that, and the third. No, this is a crazy person who is responsible for their own actions. And at the end of the day, if you're going to, go out there and inflict violence on other people, you don't deserve to be in society with other people. Our standard for society is that we can go out, you can say your piece, you can even say hate speech here in America, because we don't have hate speech here in America, but you can go out and speak without being inflicted, met with violence, because that's how we do here in, civilized society. We can say things that are offensive, that are challenging, and we can have the interaction. But the moment that you start to deploy violence, or that you legitimize the use of violence against your political enemies, that's when you cross the line into criminal territory. That's when you cross the line into, somebody who is not, able to function, and you're actively collaborating on the destruction of this nice thing that we have here, where we can go out and talk and not worried about being shot.
I wanted to comment on the trans genocide notion because Andy No put out.
Andy No had an amazing tweet. Maybe I'll pull this up.
I
while
think
you
this
read
was
it.
like a week ago or so, but Tucker Carlson brought the tweet up on his show as well, and this is what Andy No said. He said there is no genocide of trans people in the U.S. or anywhere in the West. In fact, there has been an explosion of trans-identifying people, which research suggests is a social contagion and spread by social media fads and youth peer pressure. The few dozen trans people tragically killed in the U.S. each year are usually murdered by black men while in the course of prostitution activities. And he has a follow-up tweet. You know, there's no genocide of them in the United States. It's a conspiracy theory by political activists and money-hungry groups to push through demands not supported by evidence, reason, or rationality.
And where have we heard that recently, where they were using lies in order to advance a crazy agenda?
There's a video done. Here, I'm going to pull it up. You guys should talk about this on your podcast one day. Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, no problem.
There's this awesome YouTuber, and he made a video about the fake genocide a couple years ago. At the fake crisis, Matt Christensen
is
his name.
He's funny.
Okay, so look this up. The fake crisis. He did the deep dive into each of these murders, so-called murders. And I think it was from 2020. There was 53 or something. When you look into them, 6 of them, I think, were in Puerto Rico during violent crimes, maybe prostitution. Some of these people were lovers in a lover's quarrel. So that's not anti-trans hate. Some of these people were committing crimes and were shot by police in the act of committing some violent crime. Also not a murder. When you come right down to it, maybe 2 or 3 out of that 53 or whatever the number was, maybe you could say those were down to some sort of hate crime. And when you look statistically, based on the number of self-identified trans people, 1.4 million or 1.6 million, versus the number of murders, they're like the safest demographic in the United States of America. The general population was more than 2 times as likely to die by murder, but these weren't even all murders. The whole thing is fake. There is no violence being committed against trans people. If there was, we would see it on CNN on a 24/7 loop.
Yeah.
But all we ever see are trans-identified people or their activists attacking people like me. And I just noticed today when we hopped on this call with the bright lights that I have a shiner developing here. So that's pretty cool for Tucker Carlson tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got, the black eye, you've got the scrape on your face. It's just so typical. And this is something that Josh talks about a lot on Disaffected. Shout out to Josh and Kevin for Disaffected.
I was going to bring them
again
up too.
Because this is DARVO. This is deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Yeah. This is, these people are accusing you and, by association, all of us that disagree with their crazy agenda. They're accusing us of the thing that they are guilty of. They are engaging in violence. They are engaging in stochastic terrorism. That is, they are spewing rhetoric that is making it more likely people engage in violence against us by claiming there's a trans genocide and that we're, hateful, transphobic, anti-LGBT. We're gay. I mean, you're a straight father, but Josh is gay, Kevin's gay. Like, there's a lot of gay people that are concerned about this. And that find it aberrant and offensive that they're piggybacking on gay rights to advance this crazy gender-bending agenda. I mean, it's just so insane. And then to go the extra step of reversing the victim and offender and saying now, that you are engaged in, mutual combat. I thought that was lovely yesterday, how they said that it was mutual combat.
Stupid. I was going to bring up Josh.
A mutual fight. Please don't shout 3 inches from my ear with your spittle spraying my face. Maybe you can back up a couple inches. Hey, mutual fight. It's laughable. I don't worry about it at all. I think it's kind of funny, all these people online trying to say, he started it. I mean, whatever. These people are NPCs. They're fake. They're not smart. They mean nothing. So if anything, they're just promoting my Twitter account more. So thanks, guys. Keep it up.
Fact. But yeah, I was going to bring up Josh and Disaffected as well, and Kevin, and what's going on over there, Christopher and Aaron Felker, and what's
talk a little bit about Burlington.
Well, it's happening in Burlington because, like you said, every time a trans-identified person dies, they try to find a way to spin the narrative that people like us speaking out about this, we are the cause of that. And maybe you can go into a bit what the city council said.
Their recent resolution, they passed a resolution in support of the LGBTQIA+ community and condemning transphobia. And they put in their resolution a little bit about a trans person, a guy who was murdered, his name was Zachary Barbeau, but he went by Fern Feather. And Fern had picked up a hitchhiker who had just been let out of a mental institution, who was behind bars for over a decade, picked him up hitchhiking, shacked up with him for 3 days, and then that guy killed Fern and dumped his body on the side of a road. And in this resolution, they twisted that situation. They talked about it in such a way to make it as if he was murdered for being transgender, and that the stickering that's been going on by some of the conservative activists in Burlington, this stickering that says things like no one was born in the wrong body, that lifelong medical dependency
is creating the hateful environment which led to the death of this person, which they are kind of basically they're indicating is the fault of the hate group in Burlington.
Top of that, Burlington City Council has also gone the extra step of labeling the people that are doing the stickering as a hate group.
Yes.
And saying that they're engaged in transphobia.
When it's actually a bunch of homos doing it.
And it's the opposite. We had one of their own, somebody from the Burlington community, his name was Mark, he testified during public comment, and he said that he has heard rhetoric that the trans community and trans activists want to kill transphobes. That was what he was reporting. And and it was twisted. There was these little Vermont publications. I think it's WCAX or something, the VT Digger. They take his commentary, they cut the part out where he says that it's transphobes, that they want to kill transphobes, and makes it spin it around like he's hearing that it's the transphobic people who are engaged in the violence, who want to engage in violence. When they completely reverse the whole thing.
Yeah. They lie.
They lie.
These aren't mistaken people. These are not mistaken people. There's so many naive people out there that just think they're mistaken. They just need to learn the truth. If we could only just talk to the CEO of the American Academy of Pediatrics and show him the evidence, we could twist his arm and they would stop this tomorrow. No, these people are liars. These people know exactly what they're doing. We are dealing with evil. There is no reasoning with certain people. And there is absolutely no reasoning with people who are pushing this on society. So we only have one option, which is to keep raising awareness, flip these school boards to get this junk out of schools, do whatever we can at a grassroots level. But eventually we need to vote these people out because we have lying activists who have gotten themselves into every important political position in the country at all levels of government. Mm-hmm. And they're destroying the nation, not just the United States. It's everywhere. It's the same blueprint all across the Western world. And this is the source of the culture war. We have activists from the left who have a big head start on us, and they're destroying society. So thanks to you guys for getting the word out there. People like you guys, all of us grassroots warriors telling the truth. We're going to win. It's just going to take some time. But people like these assaulters the other day actually help us in our job because just one of those videos, the best angle of the attack on me, it's already been seen more than 6 million times. So this has made international news. I've got members of parliament from other countries reaching out to me. Of course, none from Canada, expected. Scotland, Europe, Australia, I've got MPs there reaching out to me. I'm being invited to speak with members of parliament in Scotland. So I'm just going to keep spreading awareness wherever people want me to spread it because all these kids matter and we're all connected to each other. And we're going to win this battle. It's just a question of how many kids are harmed before we do. Yeah. But I got to go pretty quick, so maybe we can address one more thing, and we can do this another time. But I got some other engagements right now.
For sure. I think the point you make, though, about how the violence is only going to play into our hand here is because look, when a normal person, maybe someone who doesn't even know that much about this topic and what's going on, because a lot of people don't, to be honest, sits down and goes on their computer and they're scrolling through Twitter and they see that video. What do you think they're going to think of that side, right? This trans radical activist, this whole ideology. Do you think they're going to look at those people as the rational people, the caring, loving, tolerant ones? They're not. It's going to be very clear to them that those are not the caring, loving, tolerant side. There's something else malevolent there.
Yes.
Let me wrap it up with
Daniel.
this thought.
I just want to comment on Daniel's point because this is such a spectacular point. I'm naturally calm in these situations. I don't get worked up. But I also know I have this perspective that what's happening isn't just happening between me and the people around me right now. This is going to be seen by 100,000 or 1,000,000 or more. So carry yourself when you're at these protests like 1,000,000 people are watching you. And just be calm and cool. That other person yelling at you, they don't matter. They're irrelevant. They're a cog in the machine. They're a piece of code programmed into the matrix. They're totally irrelevant. Keep yourself safe, but what they say has no meaning. Don't let it affect you personally. Just be cool, get your points across that you need to make, not necessarily for them, but for the people who are going to be watching this. And everyone who's new to this, watching from home, can see right away. Totally sane person, acting normal, vicious psychos trying to destroy people. Who's on the right end of history here? They all get it right away. So they're doing our job for us when they do this stuff.
Yeah, no, I saw that Deputy Chow, Howard Chow, tweeted out this little bit about how policing protests and demonstration are always the most challenging parts of their work, and they're going to do a full investigation, and they're looking for witnesses to come forward. Right. I'm not sure why they need witnesses when they've got multiple video evidence, all kinds of angles, and something like 40 of their officers were there to bear witness. Do you expect anything to come? Do you think they're going to charge anyone with this, or do you think they're just going to investigate and
let it go away?
The investigator called me yesterday and he wanted me to come in and give a statement. I would be fine with that, but I talked to a lawyer and he said, no, don't do it. Have them email you the questions. And I get it. They're trying to build some narrative to make it less likely to charge me, I'm sure. They don't need me to come in. Everything's on video. You want a statement from me? Here's this video from another angle, here's video from another angle. Watch it with your own two eyes. When I got Jessica Yanev a criminal record, this is this cretin in Langley, British Columbia, the city next door to me. He's just 25 minutes away. This guy came out on the street in his car and he threatened to kill me, and he told police I was calling in bomb threats. So he got charged with 2 counts of public mischief and he got charged with uttering threats. He was found guilty. Why? Because I had video of it. I didn't even say a word to this guy. I just videoed. No words necessary. And I filled out a little handwritten statement that day and he got convicted. These guys are full of crap. They don't need me to come in. They're just playing games. I've dealt with this before. They wanted me to come in to give a statement in March of 2021 because in December of 2020, I had been sucker punched and I'd stopped this guy from running away with a single push. And then almost 3 months later, the police wanted me to come in and give a statement because they were looking at charging me with assault causing bodily harm. And so a lawyer told me the same thing then. He said, no, they're just trying to build a case against you. And this guy used to be a prosecutor. So I'm not going to go in unless the lawyer tells me to go in because there's no need. It's all on video. This is a slam dunk case. There were other people assaulted that day too. And I want to mention them. Pierre Barnes, this French Canadian who now lives here. He's an awesome guy. He's done more in Canada than anyone in exposing the books that are in these school libraries and classrooms. Another older man was assaulted, pushed, thrown to the ground. And I guess that's it. There were the 2 assaults on me and there were the 2 assaults on them. So there's probably 4 or 5 different individuals involved. And it's all on camera. And what could police have done that day? They could have just walked up to the people and gotten their info then. But now they're asking for witness statements. I mean, it's a total joke. This thing's a farce. But they're getting so much pressure from online now that's, I think, why they're reacting. They would have just let this slide if they could. So thank you, people of the internet. And I should just say before I go, if you want to support me, I do need help. Like Brian Krausenstein says, I got to pay for lawyers. I'm traveling all around. I do all this on my own dime. I have no organization supporting me. So if you appreciate the work I do, it doesn't pay for itself and I'd love your help. But if you can't afford a penny, don't worry about it because I'm going to be fine. Just if you want to. What I really want you to do is have conversations. I want you to learn about this, get educated, and have one conversation at a time because that's the only way we end this. Go to your school board meetings, make a fuss. That's the best thing you could ever do for me. So Daniel, Brentley, thank you so much for having me. You guys are beautiful. I love you. And we'll do this again soon.
Love you too, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay safe
Take care.
out there, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.